silly cookbook here that I want to share with you, okay? I know this is a little unusual, but I love it when people are interested in, like, one crazy thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's an entire website called Battery University that I was looking at today because I needed help understanding how the lithium battery in my computer works and how I can optimize its life cycle, right? And there are people who are obsessed with batteries, and they figured that out. Hey, Emrak. Good to see you. So this person, C. Ann Wilson, he or she, I think it's a she, is obsessed with marmalade. So, we're going to learn a little bit about marmalade today. I'm not sure it fits into the superhero category, but it does fit into our magic library category. And who knows, we might learn something that we can use. And you know what you can use? You can always learn little sweet things that you can do for other people. And I bet we can learn something like that in here. For MCW and ECW. This is insane. Okay. This is a book. It includes the history of marmalade. I thought this was more of a cookbook, but apparently I'm incorrect. About ancient marmalade, marmalade in the medieval world, Tudor and Stuart England, marmalade, orange marmalade in England, medicinal orange marmalade, marmalade in Scotland. Here's the thing, if you're passionate about something, make something. Like, that's just beautiful. I'm so excited about this. This is the quince tree. Does Paddington Bear like marmalade? I'm not very familiar. Tell me more. I'm not flicking you off. I just find it a lot easier to trace with my middle finger. Because there's a huge size discrepancy between my middle finger and my second finger. You see that? This was a huge problem when I was on the wards doing OB work, because when you are measuring a lady to see how far she's dilated, you got to get up there, you got to be able to reach. This finger could never reach the cervix. It was so difficult, so I'd have to kind of twist. Fortunately, my hands are small, which was nice also for rectal exams. Everyone likes to have someone with small hands, but like trying to reach and like pull this finger back and this finger forward so I could get a good cervical measurement, so difficult. This is about 10 centimeters. So this is about my 5, this is 10, so 8, 5, and this is about 1.5 to 2, because my fingers are so small. Relaxing gynecology conversations that you're not going to get from anyone else in the ASMR world. This person is obsessed with marmalade, and they write, marmalade continues to be newsworthy, whether through the new varieties introduced by enterprising manufacturers or on account of National Marmalade Day, launched on 10 March 1995. The date celebrated the 500th anniversary of the earliest port record of the arrival of Portuguese marmalade in Britain at the Port of London on 10 March 1495. This must be a British book. Let's see. No, University of Pennsylvania. Oh no, I think it was... This was originally published in 1985 by Prospect Books, which I think is a British company. But it was first published in the United States in 1999 by the University of Pennsylvania Press. The BBC today program included a feature on the 1995 anniversary date, following an earlier suggestion by Brian Redhead. Brian Redhead? Sadly, he did not live to share in that Marmelade celebration. Oh, he missed out. Maybe he'll have Marmelade at home. Since then, Chivers Hartley and Doers have supported National Marmalade Day on 10 March, giving it publicity in various ways. So then they write about marmalade advertising. Doers Marmalades beat M6 Jam. That's such a old days sense of humor. Their advertising campaign in 1997 included the ingenious idea of a 40-foot-high hoarding on a particularly congested stretch of the M6 motorway bearing the words, Doers Marmalades beat M6 Jams, as in M6 traffic jams. So tomorrow is National Marmalade Day. Yes, bedhead red. So perhaps tomorrow you will make or think about marmalade. Yep, this is written in Leeds. I hope marmalade lovers everywhere will enjoy reading about this historic preserves. CAW Leeds, June 1999. That's ridiculous. Ooh. 21 of the most significant early recipes are printed in full in a separate section on historical recipes. Page 145 to 153. We'll look at that. Oh, I want to do something with this. This is interesting. This is fascinating. Marmalade spread generously upon slices of freshly made buttered toast. This, we like to believe, is the traditional English ending to the traditional English breakfast. Some would go further and insist that the original home of the marmalade tradition was Scotland, and that it reached the English from their Scottish neighbours. Why should it derive from the Portuguese marmelade? Oh, yet there's something strange about the name of this confection. Why should it derive from the Portuguese marmelo, meaning quince, when traditional British marmalade is made from Seville oranges? What a mystery. With such alternatives as lime, grapefruit, lemon, or ginger marmalade generally regarded as more recent variations on the primary theme of bitter orange. Oh, we don't know. And is marmalade unique to Britain? Its name is certainly not confined to the English language. When we travel abroad, we find that in nearly every country of Europe, people have the term marmalade in their vocabulary, spelled sometimes rather strangely to our eyes, but clearly the same word. Moreover, it is often applied to a much wider range of conserves there than it is in Britain. One reason is that non-English speaking nations lack an exact equivalent for our jam. This leads to some interesting comparisons. And then she goes on to talk about all the different places in the world where different jams are. But I think what we're interested in, the earliest system of fruit preservation was probably based on drying. There is evidence that apples were cut up and dried in slices in Neolithic Britain. That source citation is, she cites her sources like a fox. There's your source citation. I see your citation, but I don't see where you actually listed the sources. Suspicious. There it is. From the Windmill Hill and Avaberry excavations. Wow, this is really well researched. Here's why I love this, okay? So, she's actually citing primary sources. Here, De Revostica, Dioscorides, that's an old thing. This De Materia Medica is a famous old, kind of herbal book. Pliny's Natural History. These are all primary sources. These are all things from a long time ago. That's really cool. Good for her. 2 15th century cookbooks. That's cool. She's citing, like, real things. Wow. She is putting more effort into her scholarship about Marmelade than I've seen some people do about really important things like wars, philosophies, people's rights and different things like that. People, like, this isn't better cited. This is more carefully researched than some history textbooks I've read. Okay. That's, when you make something, make it honest and worthwhile. That's a good lesson we can learn from the animals. Wow. When Cato wrote about the work on a farm in Italy in the 2nd century BC, he advised the wife of the bailiff to keep a large store of dried pears, sorbs, fruit of the service tree related to the Roman, figs, raisins, and preserved pears and grapes and quinces. She should also have grapes preserved in great pulp and scanty and quinces kept in jars. Apelles, 3 centuries later, gave further advice, which has been transmitted in Book 1 of Apicius's cookery book. Grapes were to be put in a little boiled water within sealed jars made airtight with pitch, or were to be stored dry in barley. Mulberries were to be kept in mulberry juice mixed with sapa. Wine must boil down and reduced to syrup. As for quinces, choose faultless quinces with their twigs and leaves, and put them in a receptacle, and pour over honey and a fruitum. Wine must reduce to an even thicker consistency than sap. You will keep them for a long time. So marmalade is basically a kind of jam that is made with the peels of, like an orange or a quince. My grandmother from Denmark used to make marmalade, and in Denmark they love the bitter, bitter marmalade, where they've boiled down the whole oranges, basically, with the peels, in like a pot, and added sugar until it is able to preserve itself. For canning, if you ever do want to learn how to properly and safely can jams and preserves, the USDA actually has a beautiful free resource, a completely free, very detailed downloadable book about what temperatures you need to be boiling your jars to so that you can be safe. So, hi there, Jose Alonso. So, I think this is pretty cool. And I think, anyway, let's look at some of the old recipes that she says we have. So, basically, she's talking about the Romans preserving marmalade or jams. So if you don't like bitter things, marmalade can be kind of like an unpleasant jam. But if you like complicated flavors, to me, I think it's a little bit of an acquired taste, kind of like beer or wine. Alcohols are an acquired taste. Marmalade is not alcoholic. I know some people here are straight edge. But it's just a very, it's a complex tasting jam. It's different than the very saccharine sweet stuff that people always have. So she's talking about these old Greek and Roman inventions. Quinces could be preserved successfully in a state of completeness, but already another mode of preservation had been devised for them. According to the recipe of Dioscorides, the 1st century AD physician, he's the one who wrote De Materia Medica, very important. Quinces, peeled and with their pips removed, were wedged together as tightly as possible in honey in a vessel. After a year, they became as soft as wine honey, a preparation for which wine and honey were boiled together and reduced to a thick consistency. I'm going to take a note of this because for our historical videos, it could be cool to do a Greek one, and I can pass as a Greek person. I can't do the accent, but I can do that. Let me write that down before I forget. There's some things I can't do, right? Or that I have to be very clever with. Like, no, be quiet. Shh, don't hurt my ears. Here we go. I'm going to type behind your head so that I don't forget. I'm actually pretty soon ready to film the 1920s medical exam, but I've been working on another one that's going to take much longer that I want to do first. So, okay. We can even use this recipe where they use apples in page 19 of the Marmelade book. We're going to use page 19 of the Marmelade book. And then we can make another historical video. I like connecting people across time and space. I think that's important. Page 19 of the Marmelade book. De Materia Medica, Ancient Greek Medical Exam video. And that'll be easy. I just need a sheet for that and makeup. I already have, like, let me show you what I've got. Because I've got this, which even though these are obviously not authentic, there's ways to, you know, Greekify. I also have this, but this looks more, this is what I wore at my wedding. A little crown, because there was a medieval Jewish tradition. It stopped after some time, but there was a medieval Jewish tradition where you would wear a crown at your wedding, because marriage was a symbol of the relationship between God as king and his people, Israel. That was the idea. So they all wore crowns. I don't know when that tradition stopped. I did a paper on medieval weddings back when I was getting my history degree. Alright, we shall continue. But anyway, apples and honey, this recipe she's talking about, this Greek invention, where they used it to preserve, using the fruit and honey to preserve the fruit, basically. That is not marmalade. But it was called melomeli, apple and honey, which passed into Latin as the melomeli columella, and the melimella, honey apples, with an implied inversion of the two parts of the word of marshal. From this word, the Portuguese eventually derived their word for quince, marmelo, and hence their marmalade. And marmalade got to Britain, and probably much else of Europe, from the Portuguese, or much of, you know, that part of Europe. Probably it was everywhere in the Mediterranean already. Paul of Aegina, a Greek physician of the earlier 7th century AD, offers recipes for two forms of quince preparation. One of them, said to be the recipe of Galen, another famous Greek doctor, used only the juice of quinces, seasoned with ginger and white pepper and boiled with honey and some ginger until it gelled. It was recommended as a cure for poor appetite and also for indigestion. That's cool. Quinces and ginger. Quinces are, you know, they're like an orange. They're less sweet. Oh no, computer is getting warm. It'll be okay, computer, you can do it. That's fun. Realistic Greek. That's neat. So this is page 21. Gallons. Page 21 has gallons. I really like how this is written. Has gallons. Recipe for quinces with ginger for indigestion. Can I be honest with you? I bet you it's really the ginger that helped with that more than the quinces. The reason I say that is because we still use ginger, at least many nurses, nurse practitioners, and midwives do. And in my military hospital, the generals did as well. But for our pregnant women who have nausea and vomiting and can't take a lot of, things, there's not a lot you can take in pregnancy, we would recommend peppermint, ginger, and large doses of vitamin B6. Not as large as a depression dose. So if you're depressed, it can often be very helpful to take 100 milligrams of vitamin B6 over the counter every day. But if you have nausea, it can be helpful to take 10 to 25 milligrams a couple times a day, up to like 4 times a day, as needed for nausea. So again, not official medical advice for diagnosis or treatment of any illness, just some general medical knowledge. So, that's what we would do. How cool. I love history. I'm glad you liked Joan of Arc. I have a whole playlist of historical books. Oh, ginger. I actually have a tea that has ginger in it. Let me link you to it, because it would be a real bummer if I didn't. Stop yelling. Stop it. Oh no. Oh, who? What? Oh man. That sucks. There's something wrong with my SSL certificate. Why this always happens to me? Oh. I'll have to show you another time when things are back up. Transitioning away from Shopify, because they're quite expensive, I have found to be difficult. Oh, what a terrible bummer, though. Oh. Again. It has felt like everything is trying to go a little bit wrong this week. Well, more than a little bit more. I've had a couple health things going on in the family this week. Oh, okay. Let us continue. Alright, so let us find her recipes. Oh, here's another beautiful tracing. This is a 1597 picture of an orange tree by J.J. Look at that. It's so pretty. It's good to see you, sleepy embers. The first English printed recipe for orange marmalade, unassisted by pippins or pippin juice, was probably that published by Mary Kettleby in 1714, and it was for beaten marmalade, with the orange peel and pulp boiled soft and pounded in a mortar. The earliest Scottish printed recipe to make marmalade of oranges and lemons in Mrs. McClintock's receipts of 1736 is also for beaten marmalade. The lemons do not appear anywhere in it, so probably the original recipe, like several others, once terminated with the words to the effect that, thus also you may make marmalade of lemons, but the sentence was dropped owing to the rarity of lemon marmalade in Scotland. Alright, let's find the recipes. She said there's recipes. Ooh, there's another picture. Oh, this is marmalade manufacturing and boiling at Tiptree in 1921. Look at that. Look at that lady in her old days clothes. Lady in her hat. Can you see okay? This is a marmalade cutter from Harmsworth's Household Encyclopedia, Volume 3, 1923. This was a 17th century lemon from 1653, a book of fruits and flowers. They spelled lemon with 2 M's. See that? Plants have changed. Ooh, the wartime and post-war marmalade. May Byron's book gives little hints of the problems of marmalade making in wartime, yet they must have been considerable. Before the 1914 to 1918 war, much of the sugar eaten in Britain was cane sugar, which came mainly from the West Indies. During the war, merchant shipping was at risk from enemy action, and the British government deeply regretted that it had not followed the example of many European countries and developed a sugar beet industry within Britain. Frequent shortages. Oh, that's why in Stardew Valley you use beets to make sugar. Ah, that's a thing. Frequent shortages of imported sugar and citrus fruits inevitably curbed marmalade making during the period of the war. Afterwards, in the 1920s, encouragement was given to sugar beet growers, and home-produced beet sugar has been available in Britain ever since. It was to prove a great standby at the time of the 1939 to 1945. I wonder why she calls them those things instead of, like, we abbreviate, we just go World War I, World War II. During that Second World War, merchant shipping again faced great dangers in order to bring in essential foodstuffs. Sugar was not plentiful, but at least was rationed on a fair basis of 1/2 pound a person each week. Wow, that's a lot. And careful families could put by enough for occasional small-scale jam or marmalade making. Citrus fruits were not among the most essential imports, but they were a great morale booster. I mean, they must have been important for, scurvy. On the rare occasions when a cargo of sweet oranges arrived at a British port, they too were distributed scrupulously through the country. Housewives queued for hours at their greengrocers to receive eventually a single pound free oranges. At home, when the fruit had been enjoyed, the skins were not discarded. Chopped and boiled, they became the basis of marmalades made with apples and some of the hoarded sugar, with bitterness supplied by quassia chips, bought from the chemist. Wow, this is very interesting. Alright. Ooh. Here is an 1884 Cross and Blackwell's price list. Prices are given for 1 dozen jars. 13 orange marmalade. This is such an interesting way that they do their prices. It's a little bit hard to read. Hello. I didn't see your name, but I welcome you. Oh, there you are, Sari. Good to see you, Sari. Lemon marmalade. Fluted pots, quince, and glass jars. Orange marmalade. They have the most different kinds. They have it in brown jars, tins, glass jars. Look how they write. Tins charged 2D and 4D each are not returnable. Jars charged 60 and 90 each are returnable. Crates containing 1 count marmalade and tins are charged 60 each, not returnable. I don't know what that means, because I don't speak 1884 English money. Little 1.5. So she spends this entire chapter talking about jars and sizes of marmalade and marmalade manufacturing, all the way through the 1980s, and marmalade packaging through the 1980s. Little 1.5 ounce, 42-gram glass jars of marmalade were initially seen most often in a gift context, especially in the weeks before Christmas. Then assorted marmalades, including liqueur marmalades, appeared in the shops in their small jars boxed together, sometimes along with a packet of breakfast tea. Boxes of miniatures are still a gift item at Christmas. So that's a little bit of British culture we're learning about. Let's find these recipes. Come on. This is what a quince looks like. Look at that. This is also from a book, Fruits and Flowers, in 1690. I don't know why these letters are like this. Maybe this was, maybe it's like an alphabet book for children. So they're learning Q. Q, 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 Q. I'm gonna end up summoning the guy from Star Trek who's saying it so much. Oh, and different languages and scripts. That's interesting. Huh. It's fascinating. Anyway, this is quince. It's all fat. Weird shaped. Like me. Another result of North America's early acquaintance with marmalade was that it had entered the country as a dessert dish. During the 19th century, when ties with Britain were no longer as close, it did not develop into a breakfast spread in the American states to the same extent as it did in Britain. Fanny Farmer's 18 different breakfast menus in the Boston Cooking School Cookbook, 1899, do not give a mention to marmalade, although one menu includes buckwheat cakes with maple syrup, an indication that North Americans welcomed very sweet spreads or sauces at breakfast time. Well, that's still true today. Our desserts here in the United States are much sweeter, and our jams too, much sweeter than those in most parts of Europe. Further north, in the Canadian provinces, British food tradition became dominant among the English-speaking population after 1761. Scottish settlers ensured that orange marmalade arrived as a breakfast food, and that it was the Seville orange marmalade familiar in Britain. The oranges had to be imported from much further south, and before the end of the 19th century, ready-made marmalade was also being sent from Britain to Canada by the marmalade manufacturers. That is fascinating. Alright, let's get to the recipes. She promised me recipes. Okay. This is super cool. Alright. These are historic recipes. The recipes are numbered R1, R2, etc., and are referred to in the text by those numbers. The Greek, Latin, and medieval French recipes have been translated, and the spelling of the English recipes has been modernized, except in the case of headings and of a few distinctive terms. I'm so grateful that it's possible to maybe make something that somebody else a long time also ate and experience some of the same things, because we all experience, the same sun, even though the environment changes, roughly the same moon, even though the environment changes, right? But a lot of food traditions, music, clothing, other things are gone over time, so being able to reach back into the past and connect with other humans that are long gone, I think is so beautiful, especially through something as intimate as food. Her first recipe is melomeli, which has also been called kudonomeli. It is prepared from Sidonian apples, quinces, when the seeds have been taken out and the fruit thrust down into honey as hard as possible so that it is wedge solid. It will become soft after a year, like wine honey, and is suitable for uses for which the latter is prepared. That's Dioscorides de Materia Medica 5.21 in the 1st century AD. For Sidonides. This was written by Palladius, Opus Agriculturae 1120. Having removed the skin from ripe Sidonian apples, quinces, cut them up into very fine small shreds and throw away the hard part inside, the core. Then cook in honey until the pulp is reduced to half its measure, and as it cooks, sprinkle fine ground pepper over it. Oh, that's interesting. Another method, 2 pints of quince juice, a half pint of vinegar, 2 pints of honey. Mix together and boil down until the whole mixture resembles the consistency of pure honey. Then take care to mix in 2 ounces of ground pepper and ginger. That's in the 4th century AD. Oh, the shillings. Thank you. So you're talking about this page. Where did it go? I don't know. Ooh. Here's another. This is cool. This is a 1714 one. To make orange marmalade. Very good. Take 18 fair large Seville oranges, pare them very thin, then cut them in halves, and save their juice in a clean vessel, and let it cover it in a cool place. Put the half oranges into the water for 1 night. Then boil them very tender, shifting the water till all the bitterness is out. Then dry them well. This is interesting. They choose to spell the double S with the FS and then the other S. It kind of tells you people thinking differently about the sounds, right? Then dry them well and pick out the seeds and strings as nicely as you can. Because there's actually a script that linguists use to kind of understand how different people in different places, times, and understand sound. And it's really neat because there's sounds in some languages that don't exist in other languages, and there's sounds that you lose over time, like from Gaelic, Celtic, Old English, and so forth. It's fascinating how languages change and evolve. So, I mean, this is a sign of kind of that, of like demonstrating that like they're not just randomly putting them in, they really interpret this hissing sound, because F is a hissing sound, S is a hissing sound, as different. Yeah. And pick out the seeds and strings as nicely as you can. Pound them fine, and to every pound of pulp, take a pound of double refined sugar. Boil your pulp and sugar almost to candy height. I don't know what a candy height is. When this is ready, you must, and you can hear that, right? Like, must. Like, they're kind of, it's an S, not an F. But they have F also, like for half. So it's interesting. You must. Because you can feel that, like, if you're real gentle, because must, the S comes from your teeth, F comes from your lip. But if you let the sound come from between the two, it's interesting because it can start to blend together. When this is ready, you must take the juice of 6 lemons, the juice of all the oranges, strain it, and take its full weight in double refined sugar, all which pour into the pulp and sugar, and boil the whole pretty soft till it will jelly. Keep your glasses covered, and it will be a lasting, wholesome sweetmeat for any use. Like sneak talk. Where's this picture? You were telling me about shillings. Here we go. This is what you're telling me about. You're saying this is shillings and so forth. What is the D? I don't know what the D is. This is lovely. Let me. Why he keeps doing this to me? I'm so bummed by this. This is so frustrating. I can't believe this happened. Something is a mess. Cloudflare, you suck today. Oh, what's it so broken? No, stop. I would like to see my email, please. I would like to email myself this day. Because I think this is interesting. Page 145. These are neat. And then gradually, of course, the recipes become more complicated. Ooh, this one is from a leech book from the Royal Medical Society. Manuscript 136. Probably written around 1444. Chardequins. That sounds... Chardequins, that is good for the stomach, is thus made. Take a quart of clarified honey and 2 ounces of powder of pepper and meddle them together. Then take 20 quinces and 10 wardens, large pears, and pare them and take out the kernels with the cores and seed them in clean ale wort till they be tender, and then stamp them in a mortar as small as thou mayest, and then strain them through a strainer. And that will not go well through, put in again, and stamp it oft, and oft drive it through cloth or strainer. And if it be too dry, put in half a saucerful or more, for to get out the other the better, and then put it to the honey, and set it on the fire, and make it to seethe well, and stir fast with a great staff, and if there be 2 stirrers, it is the better for both. If it be not strongly stirred, it will set to the vessel, and then it is lost, and seethe it till it be sodden thick, and then take it down off the fire, and when it is well nigh cold, put it in a 1/4 ounce of ginger, and as much of cannel, cinnamon, powdered, and meddle them well together with a slice, and then let it cool, and put it in a box. Wow, that sentence isn't even done. That sentence is this long. This manner of making is good, and if it is thus made, it will be black. If thou wilt make more at once, take more of each one after the proportions, as much as thou list. Another manner of making, and is better than the first, for to put in 2 parts of honey and 3 parts of sugar, and then shall this be better than the other. And in all other things do as thou did before, for thou mayest well enough seethe thy quinces in water, and it is good enough, though thou put no wort thereto. And if you wilt, thou mayest make it without wardens, but it is better with wardens. The third manner of making is this, and is the best of all, and that is for to take sugar and quinces alike much by weight, and no honey, nor pears, and in all other things do as thou didst before, and this shall be whiter than that other. Inasmuch as the sugar is white, so shall the chardequins be. I feel like I wrote a, I don't know, epic or something. Wow. They did not want to make it easy for you to understand how to make that. It is good for the stomach, apparently, says this medical book from 1444. Oh, a closet for ladies and gentlewomen from 1608 has a recipe too. Here. To make, this is 16th century, so this is later. Oh, that's not 16th century. That's wrong. She's incorrect. If it's 1608, it's not 16th century. To make an excellent marmalade, which was given Queen Mary for a New Year's gift, take 1.5 pounds of sugar, boil it with a pint of fair water, till it come to the height of Manus Christi, a sweetmeat, and then take 3 or 4 small quinces, 1 good orange peel, both very well preserved and finely beaten, and 3 ounces of almonds blanched and beaten by themselves. Aringus, sea holly, roots preserved, oh, I don't know what that is, 2 ounces and a half, stir these with the sugar till it will not stick, and then at last put in of musk and amber. Wow, that's expensive. Ambergris, dissolved in rose water, of each 4 grains, of cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and mace, of each 3 drachms, of oil of cinnamon 2 drops. This being done, put it in your marmalade boxes, and so present it to whom you please. Wow, that would have been incredibly expensive at that time. because it's got all those spices. It's hard even for now if we wanted to make that rose water. Finding all the spices. I don't know how to find holly root. Sea holly root. Wow. There's another one that is very comfortable and restorative to any lord or lady whatsoever. And that one has a lot of ginger in it. And they want you to put cockstones in it. I do not know what those are. Take of the purest ginger 6 drams of eringus and satarian roots, of each an ounce and a half. Beat these very finely, and draw them with a silver spoon through a hair cierce, a sieve. Take of nut kernels and almonds blanched, of each an ounce. Cock's stones, half an ounce, all steeped in honey 12 hours, and then boiled in milk and beaten and mixed with the rest. Wow, milk. Then powder the seeds of red meadows or rocket, of each 1 dram, plantain seeds, half a dram, of the belly and back of a fish called Scinsis marinus, 3 drams. Wow, this is jam? Of diacetyrian 4 ounces, of cantharides, add a dram. Beat these very finely, and with the other powder mix it, and so with a pound of fine sugar dissolved in rose water and boiled sugarcane. Mingle the powder and all the rest of the things, putting in leaf gold 6 leaves. Wow. Of pearl prepared 2 drams. What? Oil of cinnamon 6 drops, and being thus done and well jived, put it up to your marmalade boxes and gild it, and so use it at your pleasure. Wow. Pearl. Pearl. Why do they put fish in there? I don't think that would... The FDA does not approve that. You're not supposed to can your... There's 2 different rules for how to can meats and jams. The USDA would get upset about this. I guess you would do it to the fish standards. That's fascinating. Fish marmalade. Wow. They have pippin marmalade. These are so many recipes. They have an Australian recipe from 1888. This woman did so much work to go through and find all these old recipes. And then she has some modern recipes that she herself recommends for today. That is funny. That was the Book of Marmalade. I hope you enjoyed it. I can do one more little activity with you guys. Well, 1.5. And then I have to go. Because I'm not feeling particularly well, but I did want to establish the trend of spending time together. So, apparently literacy rates were surprisingly high among certain people groups in old days. So it really depends on where you were and what you were doing. I know throughout history, Jewish men have always had higher literacy rates in general, men more than women, because of the importance, the religious importance assigned to script over time. So I know that, and I know that throughout East Asia, there are a lot of places where literacy rates were surprisingly high. But I don't know a lot about Britain and the general population in 1608. I know that particular book, The Gentlewoman's Closet, is written for the gentlewoman, right? So it's about